My mother-in-law stole my child's name, so I gave birth to her and named her worst fear. Have you ever held your newborn, heart pounding, eyes full of tears, and whispered the name you've loved since you were 16? The name you carried in your heart through every chapter of life, every heartbreak, every hope. Now imagine discovering, just weeks before giving birth, that your mother-in-law had stolen it and handed it to someone else. Not a stranger, not a distant cousin, but her other daughter, my sister-in-law, who then announced it proudly as if the idea had fallen from the sky. That moment shattered something inside me. Because that name wasn't just a name, it was my dream. A dream she casually handed off like a party favor. But what came next? Well, I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't even fight back the way she expected. Instead, I chose silence. And in that silence I found the perfect name. A name that made her face go pale the second she heard it. A name filled with power, love, and just the right touch of poetic justice. Want to know what it was? Before we get to that delicious twist, let me take you back to where it all began. To the moment I realized I wasn't just being heard. I was being watched. Part 1. The name I dreamed of. I was 16 the first time I wrote the name down. Just one word. Luna. It came to me on a quiet evening, when the world felt too loud. I was sitting on my bedroom floor, legs crossed, a notebook in my lap, letting my mind wander to a future I could barely imagine. There was something about that name, Luna, that felt otherworldly. Dreamy, yet strong in its own mysterious way. I scribbled it again and again in the margins, pairing it with dozens of middle names like I was crafting a story no one else knew. But nothing ever fit quite like Luna Rose. Rose was my grandmother's name, my safe place growing up. She raised me with warmth in her hands and iron in her spine. She made even the hardest days feel gentle. When she passed, I promised myself I'd find a way to honor her. And there it was. Luna Rose. A name for a girl who'd carry legacy and light all at once. That name followed me through life like a shadow of hope. Through heartbreaks and healing. College exams and late-night cries. Dead-end jobs, new beginnings. And the kind of self-doubt only your 20s can bring. But no matter where I went, Luna Rose stayed with me. Waiting. And then, at 32, I heard the words I'd been longing to hear. It's a girl. In that moment, everything inside me lit up. There was no hesitation, no second guessing. I already knew who she was. That night I told Jake, my husband, my best friend, the name. We were folding baby onesies on the living room floor, a half-eaten pizza box between us, soft music playing. I whispered it like a secret, like something holy. I want to name her Luna Rose. He looked at me with a kind of smile that makes time slow down. Then he leaned over, kissed my forehead and said, "It's perfect. She's going to love it." For a while that moment was enough. Held it close. Quiet. Sacred. Just ours. But then things changed. It was supposed to be a normal dinner at my in-laws. Harmless. Roasted chicken, overcooked vegetables, uncomfortable chairs. My feet were swollen, my back was sore, and I was just trying to survive the small talk. I remember laughing at something Jake said and letting it slip. How excited I was to meet Luna Rose. The name floated out so gently I barely noticed. But she did. Jake's mother. Sitting across from me, sipping wine slowly. I'll never forget the way her eyes paused, ever so slightly, like a hawk spotting movement in the grass. No reaction. No raised brow. Just a tight smile. The kind that says more than it should. 2 weeks later, her daughter, Jake's sister, posted a photo on Facebook. Pink booties, baby blocks, pastel flowers. And the caption, "Can't wait to meet our sweet Luna Rose, 2 hearts. Same spelling. Name. No explanation. Just a stolen dream dressed up in emojis. I remember staring at the screen, pulse pounding, air caught in my lungs. Jake stood behind me, silent. So now I have to ask you. Have you ever had something that personal taken from you before you even got to live it? Name. Dream. Moment. Leave me a comment. Let's talk about it. You're not alone. And what happened next? Let's just say, I found a way to write a new ending. One she never saw coming. Part 2, the theft. You know that strange, sinking moment when something just clicks, but not in a good way. It's like the last puzzle piece finally fits, but the picture it reveals isn't what you hoped. That's exactly how it felt when I saw the Facebook post. I was scrolling through my phone on a quiet Sunday morning, sipping cold tea and rubbing my round, aching belly. 2 months left until I would meet my daughter. My Luna rose. I was still floating in that tender space of baby kicks, nursery plans, and names whispered in the dark. And then I saw it. A perfectly polished photo from my sister-in-law, Jake's younger sister. It had everything. Tiny white baby shoes, a pink satin ribbon, soft floral tones, and those 6 words written across the image in glittery font. Coming soon. Our sweet Luna rose 2 hearts. My breath caught, froze. The world around me went muffled. First came the shock, then confusion. My brain scrambled for explanations. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe I misread. Maybe. But deep down I knew. He knew. My fingers trembled as I held the phone. And that's when Jake walked in. He saw the post over my shoulder. Saw my face. He stopped cold. Mom must have told her, he whispered after a long silence. She said it was too beautiful not to share. Too beautiful not to share. Well, it wasn't shared. It was taken. The name I'd carried in my heart since I was a teenager. The name I spoke into the quiet corners of my life, dreaming of the day I'd say it to my child. Now plastered across social media like a borrowed trend. Like my story no longer belonged to me. I couldn't breathe. Later that evening, I confronted my mother-in-law. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the glass I was holding. I looked her in the eyes and tried to ask, how she could do that. Why she would take something so deeply personal and give it away like it meant nothing. She didn't flinch. She sipped her wine, looked me dead in the eye, and said with a smile that made my stomach turn, "Names aren't owned, Emily. You need to get over it. Get over it. Tell me, have you ever had someone dismiss your pain like it was an inconvenience? As if your heart wasn't worth protecting? What would you have done if you were me? Would you have screamed, left the room, or just cried in the car like I did later that night? Leave a comment below. I genuinely want to know what you would have done. Because I didn't do any of those things. Not right away. I stayed silent. But something inside me cracked. And something else woke up. They thought I gave up. But quietly, I began writing a new chapter for my daughter. One they never saw coming. So stay with me because the next part, it's where silence becomes strength. And everything changes. Part 3, the birth and the plan. Have you ever been so hurt? So completely let down, that your only response is silence. Not the silence that comes from giving up. No, this kind is different. It's deeper. Simmers. It reshapes you quietly, like waves carving cliffs. It's the kind of silence that holds power, the kind that builds something. That was me after the name theft. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of anyone. I didn't bring it up again. Not to Jake, not to my friends, not even to myself. I didn't write about it. I didn't vent. I just shut down that part of me. On the outside it looked like I let it go. But inside, I was already plotting the beginning of something new. Night after night, while Jake snored softly beside me, I would sit up in bed with my hand resting on my growing belly. The room was dim, the world quiet. I didn't speak words aloud. I just sent feelings to the little girl growing inside me. Warmth, love, strength, reassurance. I wanted her to know she was still wanted, still treasured. That the name didn't make the girl would give meaning to the name. And then one night, a memory crept back to me. It was years ago, at one of those too long family dinners, with wine and stories flowing. My mother-in-law had been particularly chatty that evening. I remember her laughing as she told some creepy urban legend from her hometown about a girl named Raven, a name she said had always given her chills. "If I ever meet a child named Raven," she said dramatically, "I'm walking the other way." Everyone laughed. I didn't. Filed it away. And now, sitting there in the quiet with one hand on my heart and one on my belly, I whispered it to myself for the first time. Raven. It wasn't delicate like Luna. It didn't sound soft or safe. No, Raven had presence. It had fire. It had wings. And when I paired it with hope, something clicked in my chest. Raven Hope. Didn't just sound strong, it was strong. Carried everything we had survived. It was healing and defiance rolled into one. It was a name that couldn't be stolen, because no one else would dare claim it. Weeks passed. My due date came and went. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, she arrived. Labor was long and messy and raw, but when they placed her in my arms, I swear the 16-year-old version of me exhaled with relief. The nurse looked at me gently and asked, "And what's her name, Mama?" I looked down at my daughter, tiny, alert, already full of quiet power, and whispered, "Raven Hope." Jake blinked. "You sure?" Tears slipped down my cheeks as I smiled. Never been more sure in my life. And now I have to ask you, have you ever changed something deeply personal, not out of fear but to take your power back? Would you have chosen peace? Or made a statement? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading them. And trust me, what happened next? Well, let's just say, poetic justice has a name. And she was about to hear it. Part 4, The Aftermath. You know that look people get when they realize they've lost. Not the kind that comes with yelling or tears. I'm talking about the quiet kind. The stunned kind. The kind that hits when someone realizes the game they thought they were playing just changed, and they're no longer the one holding the cards. That's exactly the look my mother-in-law gave me the day she met Raven. It had been just a few days since we brought our daughter home. The house still smelled like baby lotion and lavender. I was running on 3 hours of sleep and 20 hours of love. Everything felt raw and real and beautiful. She arrived unannounced as usual, holding a shiny pink gift bag and wearing that tight-lipped smile she always wore when she wanted to seem in control. She stepped into our living room like it still belonged to her, complimented the curtains she once said were too modern, and tried to peek into the crib with forced excitement. I stayed calm, quiet, rocking my baby girl in my arms while the weight of everything unspoken lingered in the air. And then she asked it. "So, what name did you finally go with?" I stood slowly, kissed the top of Raven's soft little head, and said clearly, with more pride than she probably expected, "Her name is Raven Hope." You could have heard a pin drop. She blinked. Once. Her lips parted like she might say something, then froze. The gift bag slipped from her fingers and hit the hardwood floor with a soft thud. It was like watching a person walk straight into a memory they thought they'd buried. You can't be serious," she stammered. "You named her that." I didn't flinch. I smiled, calmly picked up the gift bag, and gently set it on the table. Then I looked her square in the eye and said the very words she once threw at me. "Names aren't owned. Get over it." She didn't respond. She didn't need to. From that day forward, she never said Raven's name. Not once. On holidays, birthdays, even random texts, she'd refer to her as the baby, or your daughter, or once awkwardly, the little one. But honestly, I didn't mind. Because while she chose to erase a name out of spite, we chose to fill it with meaning. We raised Raven to understand exactly what her name stood for: resilience, rebirth, and the quiet strength to rise after being wronged. And let me tell you, she lived up to every letter. Raven grew up bold, curious, fearless in ways I never had the chance to be at her age. She turned a name once feared into something beautiful, something unforgettable. So let me ask you, have you ever taken pain and turned it into something powerful? Have you walked away from a moment of betrayal with your head held even higher? If you have, share it below. I promise I read every word, and someone out there needs to hear your story too. And if this one made you feel seen, even for a moment, hit that like button. Subscribe to my family tragedy, and join me for more stories like this every day. Because the truth is, you don't need permission to reclaim your voice. You just need the courage to use it. I didn't set out to be petty. I didn't want revenge. What I wanted, what I needed, was to protect what was mine, my voice, my story, and the beginning of my daughter's life. Sometimes, the most powerful justice doesn't come with fireworks or loud declarations. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, stitched into the name you choose, spoken with love, written into a birth certificate that no one else gets to rewrite. So tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have done the same? Or would you have chosen a different kind of ending? I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. I read every single one because your stories matter too. And if this one moved you, made you think, or reminded you of your own quiet strength, please like and subscribe to my family tragedy. We share meaningful stories every day, and maybe, just maybe, yours will be the next we tell.